Okay. Hello, Amdal, Rafael Ruiz. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, fine. How are you?
Very good. Very good. I'm so happy to have you here. On behalf of ISCA board, we welcome you to this ISCA interview as an interview that will allow the ISCA members community to get to know you and also share with us content about your workshop for the ISCA Gathering 2021 online in April 14th to 21st. So welcome, Amdal Rafael Ruiz.
Thank you.
Okay, so I would like to share some information from Rafael before we go into your workshop. So allow me to say that Rafael, also known by his mystic name Amdal, was born in Mexico City, although his family originated in the state of Puebla. Uh-huh. After some years, he settled in Querétaro, Mexico, where he now resides with his family. He is a psychologist trained in psychoanalysis, and since 1990, and he has been facilitating constellations since 2003. Rafael studied psychology in the Texas Christian University in Fort Worth, Texas, and later got a first master's degree from the Union Theological Seminary in New York and a second degree from the State University here in Querétaro in clinical psychology, where he taught for 35 years and now is a retired professor of the psychology faculty. He trained in Mexico as a family and systemic facilitator with Carola Didush, and he was also participating as well in 7 intensive trainings by Bert Hellinger in Mexico City. He recently has also done training with Francesca Mason Boring in Maryland in the United States. He has been holding his trainings in his city of residence, Querétaro, for more than 7 years, and he dedicates himself to his private psychotherapeutic practice and offers constellation workshops in Querétaro and has been constellating in different cities around Mexico, in Central and South America, in Canada, and in Europe as Spain. In the present, he's a member of the NASC board, North American Systemic Constellation Association, and he's a founder and vice president of AMCOFIS, which is the first Mexican association for constellators created last year. Rafael, it is an honor to have you here today. You have an extensive background, and thank you for accepting this invitation to ISCA to share your workshop. So, I am Alexandra Finkelstein. I am member of ISCA board, of our actual ISCA board, and I will be interviewing you here today, living both in Mexico, in Querétaro. So, okay, I would like to mention, first of all, to the community, the days of your workshop. So your workshop will be taking place on April 17th, 2021, from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Central European Time. And your workshop is called Honoring the Angel of Death. In these present times of COVID-19 pandemic, this pandemic has brought death to the eyes of many people and their loved ones. For others, it has reopened many wounds in the face of uncertainty. Being death so relevant as life itself, would you like to share with us why did you choose the topic of death for the gathering?
Well, I think you have said it better than me. Thank you very much for this invitation. It is me that is honored. And I think you've done very well to mention the importance of having death on our minds in this epoch, which is hard for the world. And I think that constellation work has brought a possibility of working through fear of death and seeing death beyond uh, the fear so that we can deal and we can relate to it in a different manner. And I think this is very helpful for everybody. And I think constellation work is number one in helping us do that. So that's why I chose it, the topic. I think we
Ready?
froze.
Yes. Yes, for a second, but we're back. This happens sometimes. Okay, so I would like to ask you, do you think that life and death are different forms of belonging?
Well, I think from the Bert Hellinger's comprehension of the systemic uh, world where we are all linked together, not just with the living, but also with the ancestors, this is true. The death and the life belong together. And it is very difficult for us to picture that in this existence, to picture ourselves related to death or related to the death. But if we go to our hearts, if we know how much we still love those that have parted, then something else comes through. And that is that this belonging is there. It has always been there and it will continue to be there. One way of dealing with mourning is precisely taking that person to our heart so that we can let them go on the outside and be being one with them in our hearts. So yes, I would say we belong in the same system, the living and the dead.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. So, in your workshop, you propose to work on preparing for death through 4 steps. How can these aid facilitators in constellation work?
Well, I think that this scheme really came to be from myself in working with the dying in hospitals. I, for a long time, was in charge of the practice of psychologists, my psychological students, or my students of psychology in hospitals. And they visited the dying. And I realized that in order to be able to aid the dying in their process of dying, one had to deal, one had to confront oneself through that process. And that it's really not different uh, from being at the edge of life than before. It has the same effect because it is important for us to become uh, aware of our limited lives and also of uh, being able to confront what has been our lives and what we are facing. So basically, I propose that in these 4 steps, it has to do with revising one's life and taking all, not just the good, but also the bad, and seeing what life has given us with all our experience of it. So revising life. And in that revision of life that we all can do any moment of our lives will liberate us from some things, regrets, and other things that have happened, traumas that we have still carried through the years. So revising and letting go of unresolved issues is something that we can do now, and that is a preparation for death. The other thing is, uh, besides this other elements is that we need to face our fear of death. Fear of death is a natural thing for humans and for all living beings. It's part of our uh, instinct of defending life. But sometimes the fear of death interferes with our living fully. So I don't know if I haven't seen that one can really get rid totally of the fear of death, although I have seen people die without fear, and I have seen people look at death without fear, but those are more exceptions than the rule. Yet, what helps us overcome the fear of death? It has to do with uh, uh, admitting that things are as they are, on the one hand. The other thing is honoring really what death has to do with our lives. Bert Hellinger has seen and has brought us to see how death is so much bigger than life and how life belongs to death. But he is speaking, I think, of an existence that is not like we have it right now, but that is there in the hearts and in the experience of all that contribute to life and have contributed as in past generations, and how we will continue in this life otherwise. So I think that honoring death is one way, but fundamentally it has to do with feeling that we are accompanied in this process and being able to admit others beyond our individual outlook into our lives and in a more collective uh, sense when we are part of something that is collective. And I think constellation work can help us do that.
Mhm. Yes, true. Mhm. Okay, I would like to ask you one more question. Do you think that it is possible to reconcile oneself with death and overcome the fear of dying in a way you have mentioned it right now? Okay, so I think this question is answered totally. As you say, it's not the constant, but it happens, right?
That's right.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay. Mhm. So, finally, how can a person find peace with destiny? And how does this process relate to honoring the angel of death?
Well, I think one of the things that Hellinger has brought to our consciousness is how we relate to destiny. Destiny is a given uh, when it comes from acknowledging that we live in a context that's bigger than us, in a space and a time that came before, and we are brought with many givens. These things are already there, and we have to accept our destiny from what it comes. I don't think that Hellinger is a determinist. I think he says that the destiny that we have is inexorable, but that if we look ahead, we have choices. And in these choices, a new possibility opens. Maybe it is a little bit of a percentage of what destiny has hold of. But if we acknowledge what is, then we can go ahead in the next step. If we don't acknowledge what is, we cannot move. If I want to go someplace, I have to first acknowledge that I am here. If I don't acknowledge that I am here, then I cannot go anyplace. And this is a fundamental way of understanding destiny. So I think honoring destiny is admitting that it's a bigger element than our own consciousness or than our own willingness. So this is how I see it. In the workshop, I think through constellation work, we will have an opportunity to honor death and honor destiny in this way. Uh, the constellations offer not only the possibility of seeing and being conscious of these matters, but also of healing them. So, a workshop is an opportunity for healing this relationship to life and healing our relationship to death. We're healing our relationship to life, and we can live fully. This is the intention of the workshop. We will use constellation work
Great.
to work through some mourning that may be holding us back on life, and this fear of death and this relationship that we need now to uphold in a new way so we can go forward. And I think in this moment with the COVID, we need to look ahead beyond the possibilities of subsistence of the human race. We have to look at ourselves as part of a bigger, much bigger entity. And I think this is necessary for us not to lose hope in what's happening at the end of times, as they say, of humanity in this world.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and Rafael, what is the risk of not looking into death for a family system?
Well, I think you're excluding most of the family. I think that Bert Hellinger is clear about belonging, and belonging has to do with all the ancestors as well that are there and will continue to be there forever. When I do a workshop, usually people look at me like that's not so. You know, the ancestors do not continue to live. But when I ask them, how can you change your great grandparents? Could you change any of them if you don't like them? Could you forget them? And it's impossible. So then people start to realize that we are our ancestors. So that means when we acknowledge death and the death as part of the living, then we are more complete. And we are in the orders of love, acknowledging belonging fully.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. And maybe also liberating from systemic implications in this process where we give them a place in our heart, right? For future
That's what,
generations.
that's what family constellation is about. Yes.
Yes. Wonderful, Rafael. It is a profound thing to work with. And we thank you as the board in ISCA and our community, because in these given times, more than ever, death is something we need to look into. So I think we are going to close the interview and leave it at this. And we invite all the community, and we hope to see you soon for this workshop and for the many workshops that will take place. All workshops will be taking place in Central European time. Please check your time. And I am going to leave in the chat link to go to ISCA2021.com to see the event, to see all the workshops, the time schedules, and to register to enter this gathering in a very special prize in the comfort of your home and with wonderful facilitators all around the world. So you can also visit our website, ISCA/network.org, and go to the menu ISCA Gatherings and to Belonging, Thriving Together, which is the topic of our gathering for 2021. So Rafael Ruiz, thank you. Have a wonderful day. And we will be looking forward to experience your workshop soon. Take care.
Thank you, Alexandra. Thank you
Okay,
very much.
bye.
Bye.
Bye.